But you call it a river of slices, wood slices.
River of slices, yeah.
But we can move around and among it, right? But the presence is strong, right? Powerful.
Rustic.
Rustic. Rustico.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Does this relate to the other work you made in the park?
Yeah, and the forest in Czechia. Yes,
in Czechia,
a
little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's far.
Yeah.
But that was more longer.
Yeah.
It was 10 meters long.
Yeah.
And I put between the pieces a small branches.
Right.
That I call wood infusion because
Mm-hmm.
it was so give the energy back
Yes.
for the cut tree.
Mm-hmm.
This was achieved in one time. Yeah, it's a little bit reflect on this. But this gives more kind of trigger, yes, kind of migration, moving.
This one I like also because it works from outside. This one's interesting because you're playing on the natural and the manufactured, because when you look at the brick on the wall of the factory that you carved, the context was industrial. Now you're transferring what looks like manufactured into art form in a natural setting. So it's a reflection on interior, exterior, on history of nature and history of man together.
Yes.
Yeah. So you have the two playing off each other.
That's how
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. Maybe one day I will put outdoor somewhere.
Yeah. But also the sewing,
Outdoor.
healing.
Yeah. Also sewing. I use all the time sewing.
Yeah.
This kind of X
Right.
sewing, Christ. Yeah.
Yeah.
X sewing.
Right.
Yeah, I made it in Journey factory in 2009. But I carved directly in a wall. And this is a little bit different because I made it with my hands. This is earth, kind of clay, earth.
Was it local clay?
Yeah, absolutely local clay. They call pyrogranite. It's a kind of material for outdoor works. It's
Yeah.
very good resistant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe one day it will be so like this.
Yeah.
Like I've done here with moss and grass between the grooves. That's why I put there the moss because.
But also it's an instant ruin. You're creating a kind of artificial ruin.
Yeah.
In other words, there's an element of antiquity to the brick and so on, but it's brand new, but you're setting it up in nature too. So there's this idea of time.
Right.
Time, healing,
Right.
memory.
A kind of monument for the healing
Yeah,
process
yeah,
for the soul.
yeah. Cultural sewing, cultural healing. Yeah. Oh, Korea. Don't do.
The instrument, yeah.
Tree instrument, Heart Gate last year in Korea. The tree becomes an musical instrument, you know.
Because the resonance there inside.
It must be hard to keep it tuned.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess.
All the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nature. The single artificial thing is the quartz there. Just I put some woods there, I fixed with wood and stone. The quartz are not naturally. This is
Right.
still for guitar.
Sziasztok, bejegyzek. Mindenkit üdvözlök, a és a múzeum cégének üdvözlöm elében. Örülök, hogy itt van. Örülök, hogy összejöhetett ez a mai találkozó, a kiállítás. Mellettem a Pokornyi a vendégünk, a képzőművészünk, és ővelete pedig John Kay, aki Kanadából érkezett. Természetművészetnél, tehát kurátorként nevezkedünk magam. Na most ez egy olyan történet, hogy Attilával már elég régóta ismerjük egymást. Úgy alakult, hogy sikerült egy magmási előadást összehozni számára közös erővel. Meglátjátok, hogyha megnézitek, nem kis annyira könnyű. Örvennek, oké, köszöntek benneteket, és akkor megkérem John-t, hogy tartsanak be a megnyitóbeszédét. Egyébként ez a megnyitó kiállítás és könyvbemutató is éppen, mivel Attila nemrég, persze nem szokványos, hogy mondható lesz, mert nemrég teljesen annyit nem dumálunk a könyvről, de megmutató itt van nálam, és ehhez az előszót John írta, ők egy különleges barátság fűzi őket egymáshoz. Remélem, hogy erről is fog egy pár szót majd John angolul mondani. Fordítás nem lesz, hogy remélem, ki picit az őjét érteni fogja. Please, John.
I first met Attila 2 years ago at Attila in a symposium in Hungary. I was invited to work there with the artists at a granary on the Slovakian border, and we had a lot of fun, and we did not drink too much, but we drank some. So I was interested even in Transylvania. Why? Because people have a natural sense of design and they're resourceful. The other day I went for a walk in Montreal, where I live, and I saw a woman carrying a piece of wood wrapped in plastic with a price, $10 on it. And I was so surprised how far we are from nature and how close nature is to us too. What's interesting about Attila's work is that he plays on design. Because nature designs with no consciousness. A tree grows. Humans design with consciousness. We make forms, we build structures. What is the most interesting is when the two meet, nature's design and human ingenuity. So, this is a great challenge of the future. People talk of biomimicry, where you take a form from nature and you copy it to create a design that works for human clothing, architecture, building, passageways, whatever. POKORNYI's work relates to the tradition of sewing in this area, which is a high art form, and a Hungarian I know, Anna Torma, who lives in Canada, does a lot of great work with sewing. She lives in New Brunswick on the coast. Sewing is a kind of healing. Why do we sew? We sew to bring things together. We bring different times together. We bring different cultural spaces together. Sewing is the space between the objects. Nature is not an object. It's we who make things objects. When a tree grows, it grows unconsciously. Once I met an old man in a bus in Montreal who said, when I'm sleeping, nature is working, because he had a Christmas tree forest in the north. And in a way, we're all working. must be every day, or he will not be at all. This show is called Natural Frequencies, and it relates to tuning in to context. Context involves the concept of the artist, but the context of nature is permanent. We come and go. A building will collapse, another building will come. What's more interesting is that nature creates limits, and we have to work within the limits of nature. We are not Superman. And so the intelligence, like ancient civilizations who had irrigation systems better than our own, is to understand the flow of water, the way the climate shifts. One of our next problems will be piping and water flow with climate change, replacing systems and everything. Anyway, these are the kind of things we think about. All cultures are rooted in nature. Nature is a system always changing, but it's subject to the law of physics. So physics is more radical than human ideology, because while we're dreaming of an ideal universe, nature keeps working, no matter, because of what we do to nature. We leave our imprint, our footprint in the ground. POKORNYI is leaving a soft footprint at the Gallery Magma, and he traces it with trees. The trees have an element of growth to them, but they are also something in the basement, a kind of impediment, a memory. Trees are civilization too. Isn't it interesting when we write history, we forget the whales, we forget the birds. Nature has its own history, it's there. The tree is the tree of life. And I'm improvising here because it's easier than reading the text, I'm sorry. These artworks are a manifestation of the action of life. Nature gives us everything. We are part of nature. We're not separate from nature. The action of making relates to our ancestors, and movement is always part of the human condition. If we don't move, we don't think. When we move, we think well. When we act, we think well. Artists who are in action generally edit their thoughts, and they come with a clearer thought. And that's more interesting to me than art, which is kind of always reflecting on reflections. Anyway, to put art in the context of the 21st century, we cannot let concepts dominate, because the concept is in the action of growing and life. So the concept has no distance from us anymore if we read those concepts. So the brick carpet downstairs, it relates to an old building that Attila made these sewing carvings into the brick, and the building is since demolished. But in nature, outside, he made an artificial brick carpet. The idea is that what we think is archaic is actually contemporary. Everything is linked to the past, present, future. All is in the present, not in the past. So if we're nostalgic about Roman art or something, we are only nostalgic about consciousness of our ancestors. And we shouldn't be nostalgic because we are them. Okay, so anyway, there's something human in this work. It's also eternal. The patterns stitched in nature are a memory, left to disintegrate, to go. If we don't let things go, something new does not come. That is the dilemma of the human. You cannot catch a bird when it flies. Brancusi knew that. So he made a sculpture to remember the bird flying. Everything dissolves over time. As Nietzsche wrote in Ecce Homo, sit as little as possible. Credit no thought not born in the open air, and while moving freely about, in which the muscles too do not hold a festival. As humans we are made to move, Brancusi's bird speaks of this beautiful, impossible, mercurial change. Our actions and thoughts are clear when we move. And the process of Attila POKORNYI's art is about connecting cultural connections. In a culture that is isolated by politics, the way we connect is through nature, because nature is a backdrop to all cultures in the world. And so the language of nature has its own message that goes beyond the rise and fall of tiny icons. Time throws arrows, they fly, and the generations of women who sewed in this region are being paid a tribute through Attila's art. It's weaving now, weaving the earth's structures. Ecology is not a luxury, nor is it an object. The world is not an object. Ecology is a process. To understand this, as POKORNYI does, is a kind of wisdom. Wisdom is a point of departure on the great journey. It's a short one. Thank you.
Yeah.